Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle Podcast, brought to you our brand new sponsor, Vandy's Heating and Air. Not only is he a veteran of the Army, he's a veteran of the Joe Martin middle school football coaching experience. So if he can get through that, he can get through anything. Great dude, does great work, and he's got a great team. Check him out, Vandy's Heating and Air. Appreciate him being a part of us in the new year, 2026. So I wanted to bring something to you guys that not only a cool business owner, but she's got something that can help people as well. So her name is Jillian Scott, and she's a trauma-certified life and weight loss coach and owner of Body You Crave, and also the founder of the Hungry for Love podcast. So she's got a lot of expertise across the board and a lot of that. So Jillian, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Joe.
I'm excited about it because you have a unique business, number one, but also it's January. People are looking to make some changes and things like that.
Right.
So tell us kind of the why behind your own story led to you launching your own business.
Yeah, so my first business was actually a bakery in Bangladesh. So I graduated in college. Yeah, so a little side tangent here. Don't worry, I'll bring us back around. Graduated 2008 with a degree in international relations and Russian. And then the economy totally fell apart in late 2008, early 2009. By 2010, my mom's in the foreign service. And so she was stationed in Bangladesh. And I was like, well, shit, I'm not using my degree. I've got these student loans on forbearance. I need to get my shit together, grow up and get it together, and go adult, go do, figure out my life. So I was like, oh, I'll move to this third world country, but I've got kind of a safety net because I've got my parents there to kind of help as I navigate this transition. And I get in the country and the State Department goes on a hiring freeze that summer. And the job that I was promised is no longer available. It's no longer an option. So I'm like, all right, God, I know you called me to come here. I know this was your purpose and I know I'm supposed to be here, but why? What am I supposed to do now? And so I wrestled with a lot of shame about not being able to find a real job after college, working as a personal trainer. I had an internship, but after that, couldn't convert it into what I thought was a real job or professional job. And so still kind of wrestling with that. And I was in the kitchen one day baking and making just brownies and cookies and just having some fun, basically trying to figure out my life, waste some time while I figured things out. And my dad walks in and he was like, you ought to get people to pay you for this. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could get people to pay me for this. And so it started 2 years of the business called Oh Sweet Heavens. And it was a cake and cupcake shop. And I was the cake lady of Dhaka, Bangladesh for about 2 years. And it really got me into entrepreneurship. So that's really what kind of planted the seed and this bug of I loved working for myself. I loved having my own, being able to craft my own schedule, to be able to do something that I loved and enjoyed and to make money. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so going back to the States, I knew cakes and cupcakes was not where it was at. I didn't have $100,000 to, start a bakery. I didn't have the capital needed, but I still had this desire. And so this desire to work for myself, coupled with some experiences of working with bosses who, weren't the greatest people, I felt like didn't value me, took me for granted, didn't follow through on the promises they made. I was kind of left a little bitter taste in my mouth. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to build a business and figure out where my zone of genius really is. And so in 2018, it was 2017, kind of dawned on me of I should be a health coach. People already come to me for health and weight loss help. They already look to me in that realm. And so as I was going through my own certification in 2018, I did a life coaching and health coaching certification. Also was waking up and I was like, crap, I am eating ice cream every single night. I'm actually kind of terrified of carbs. Oh, here I am telling people to maybe do these things. And it really set me on this journey of self-discovery and wanting to be a product of my product and wanting to show up authentically and in alignment as do as I do, not just as I say. And as I started to grow in this, I also woke up to my emotional eating and binge eating habit. It really helped me to wake up to emotional abuse and emotionally abusive relationships, because I found that the bulk of my clients, 90% of my clients who really struggled with emotional eating, also had an emotionally abusive relationship, whether that was in their childhood, whether that was with a spouse or an ex-spouse or a boyfriend or an ex, things like that, to where it really has been the stepping stone of evolution of my journey that I've just now brought in to be able to help people. And so that's kind of how I think of it, is there are so many people, especially women like me, who are now divorced, wrestling with how do I heal? How do I heal my relationship with myself, with food, with my body, and with dating, with the opposite sex, with these other aspects. And so that's really what got me into this, is my own trauma and realizing just how much I needed to work on it.
Hey, I mean, that old story of the Russian studies major who becomes a Bangladesh baker.
Right.
To where you are today. I mean, we've heard this 1,000 times. natural progression. So
Right? Exactly.
yeah. So when you are describing what you do to your potential clients, how do you describe it so they kind of get who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that I'll usually frame it. So one is often like, you know how you can be so good during the day and like you can stick with that diet and you're drinking water, you're following your plan. And then 3 o'clock rolls around, 4 o'clock, and you're just like kind of munchy, kind of wanting to snack on something, or 8 p.m. hits, and it's like all the rules go out the window. And it's like you have no willpower left. There's nothing else. It's like you can be so good during the day. And then something happens and there's this witching hour, and you can't seem to like be in control of yourself. And you're eating against your will. You have cravings, food urges, and you don't always know why. And it's really confusing. It's really frustrating. This can often lead to the screw it, I've already blown it. I'll start over tomorrow, or better yet, it's the I'll start over Monday. So in this one, I told myself, which was, it'd be Wednesday, and I'd be like, I've already blown it every day this week, ruined the week, but that's okay. I can still start over Monday, because maybe Monday I can be perfect. Maybe Monday I can be perfect long enough to see the results that I want. And so that's the other struggle that we often have is that like perfectionist tendency, as well as like, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it. So it's really helping people to just, instead of trying to push and force harder, it's understanding what's underneath of like, okay, we know what to do. Is that realistically what is required? Because a lot of times the diet plans we get are too extreme, but also being able to follow through and understand and like decode perfectionism and self-sabotage and procrastination, because we can see these as just like stains on our humanity almost. But really, it's like there's a reason why your brain is trying to protect you. There's a reason why this habit is coming out. And when we can show up with some love and compassion, which most of us are not good at, we can actually understand the message underneath that pattern and that behavior.
I think a lot of people are raising their hands right now. They recognize a lot of what you're talking about, so I think a lot of people do go through that and they don't know why. And they get in that shame spiral, like you talked about. And all diets must start on Monday. So you can't do it on Wednesday, right? There's
totally
against the law. So yeah. So I think
even
a lot of people are leaning
if the
in.
first of the month is on a Monday, right? It's like, because that'll really throw people off, right? If the first is on a Thursday,
No, we're waiting till next week for sure. I mean, if you're gonna launch a special event in Huntsville, I mean, you work with clients all over the place, by the way. They don't have to be in Huntsville, but if you can launch one right here, what do you think our community needs right here, like a special event that you could provide?
Yeah, so I love like retreats and workshops, like a day seminar or workshop that is maybe like yoga infused with habits, infused with mindset and trauma work, right? If it was a day long type of almost like staycation retreat, right? You don't have to leave and go far, but you can move your body and also tap into like, what is it that's really happening? What am I really thinking and feeling about myself, about my life, about my missed expectations, maybe about failures as a spouse, as a parent, as a business owner? Like there's so much mental load that we carry. There's so much emotional load that we carry. And so to be able to give a space where we can process through that and not be judged, and to really be able to understand, and like I was saying with like the decoding, it's there for a reason. It's there as a gift. And the more that we can see the message underneath it, the more we can actually do something with it, right? It's kind of how we think of failure and like failure gold. Failure is only useful if we can learn from it. But so many of us get wrapped up in the shame spiral that comes with failure, to where we can't ever learn from it. We just keep trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. And we just keep trying harder, right? And so with diets, it's like, well, what do we have to do? Well, I just have to eat less and exercise more. I just have to run more, keto harder, and that'll get me the results. But it is that restriction and it's that extreme take that actually makes it harder, that is actually creating the problem.
And I'm so glad stuff's coming out like that. For years, that's what I was. Like your doctor would tell you, oh, you need to lose weight, you should exercise more and eat less. Right. Yeah, just go do that. If I knew how to do that, I would probably be doing that, right? So I think people like you are finding the underlying causes and fixing those, and everything else kind of falls into place after that. Yeah. So I'm so glad you're out there doing what you do. So switch it up a little bit. So what's your biggest struggle right now as a business owner?
My current struggle?
Yes.
Yeah, you ask some amazing questions, by the way. So I think it's almost like visibility, right? I think for me, it's kind of this like visibility, getting in front of new eyeballs, more eyeballs, things like that. So the bulk of my clients now come from my podcast. And how they find the podcast might be a little different. So some people have actually found it through AI, through like a ChatGPT search. Some have found it through Google. Some have found it from Instagram. Some have found it through like a guest workshop or event that I did in another program. So there's like all of these different ways, right? But I think that's my biggest thing right now is like, how can I build out a system and a funnel that effectively drives enough people to the podcast and then converts them? So I think ads may come into place here for me next year as just kind of like an easier way to target some specific audiences. But it's also like targeting people who are not just about weight loss and that quick fix, right? I'm not trying to talk to the soon to be bride who is getting married in 3 months and wants to crash diet. Like there's still some nuance to it, but I think that right now has been part of it, as well as maybe like, okay, if I'm going to be on one social media platform, what do I pick? What's the right fit, right? And I think sometimes we can put pressure on ourselves to make the right decision right away. But yeah, I like to keep things simple. So it's like, all right, well, if I'm just going to do one, sometimes it does feel like there's pressure of like, better pick the right one.
Yeah, there's so many options out there, but I mean, your podcast is great. I'm thinking like, hey, she's going to coach you until you become a client. She's going to help you before you become a client. You can get in there, and if this is the information she's giving out for free, imagine if you were a coaching client. So go in there and listen to that podcast. We'll link it in the show notes in there. But how have you marketed your podcast to get those clients?
Yeah, so a lot of it has been through word of mouth. It's been through getting in kind of tangential avenues. So a lot of people who come to me, they are post-divorce. So that has been like getting in front of like divorce groups, groups that speak to either women or men about emotional abuse or toxic relationships. Those have been really good. And then even just sharing on Instagram connections like this, where I can be a guest and there can be podcast swaps, or just being a guest on other shows has been another really great way. If somebody's listening to one podcast, usually they're open to listening to others, that sort of thing. The platform's already there. So those have been really good for me.
Yeah, you can do whatever you do, man. It's like whatever's necessary. You go out there and do it, and do a combination of it. Like you're saying, you put those lines in a bunch of different waters and see what he catches.
Right. And I think that's the right way to do it too, just from like a mindset perspective of like, you're not ever relying on one person, one connection, one referral partner, one, like one coffee chat, one thing. I think really being able to have like a variety where I think that helps us to like decrease the need for any one thing to need to convert, and that's where we're going to find more of that peace and ease and be able to let go of like the urgency and the pressure.
Yeah, man, the pressure. I've definitely felt it for sure. So
yeah.
You'll see a lot of coaches out there and trainers out there. They have these strict workout plans and they got these diet rules. But your coaching, I think like what you do. You're going to say it's habits, it's mindset, and healing, kind of that combination right there. So what's the biggest shift you ask your clients to make first? Where do you start?
Yeah. So the first place we start is actually talking about the habits, because habits will show the mindset, and that's where the real juicy work gets to start. So when we first start, I tell clients, food is not bad or off limits. You're going to eat when you're hungry, stop when you're satisfied, but I'm also going to help you to make a plan, because if we just left it at eat whatever you want whenever you feel like it, that really opens the door to emotional eating as well. So we want to be intentional. So I tell clients, you can make a plan for the week, you can make it for the day. A lot of times what I do is I have an overview for the week, and then each day I'll just pick from that list of that overview. But I know I can have one treat today. So even if I want another dessert, even if I want something else, I can tell myself no, because I know it's not going anywhere. I can eat that ice cream bar, or I can eat that piece of cake every single day for the rest of my life if I want to. And when we decrease the scarcity, it actually we decrease the restriction. So now we're decreasing the scarcity. We're actually decreasing the desire and the need to binge, because I don't have to binge on cake or ice cream when I can have it literally every single day. And I can find that way to negotiate in a way that works for me. So I kind of self-soothe of like, it's okay, little Jilly Bean, right? Like, you can have more ice cream tomorrow. It's all right. We have an easier time telling ourselves no, because what does no typically bring about? Rebellion, right? It's like that teenager part of us that's like, F you, I'm going to do what I want. And then you come out of a diet that has been so restrictive. You come out of a relationship that maybe has been really restrictive around money, how you spent your time, what you could or couldn't eat, how they expected you to look, right? Sometimes we swing that pendulum into that like F you standpoint where we're just like, screw you, I'm doing what I want. And that's what we want to be able to mitigate. And we want to be able to soothe those parts of us while creating this freedom. And so it allows us to see diet rules where we're really afraid to eat carbs, we're afraid to eat fat. It'll show us where we actually need to put the time, energy, and focus when it comes to our mindset or our habits. So that's always the starting point. Focus on the habits, because that's the gateway door to show us what is underneath.
Yeah, that's it. No foods are off limits. Rewind that if you need to. No foods are off limits. I think a lot of people, they say I can't eat insert whatever this, like you said,
Yeah.
carbs or cake or whatever, all the good stuff. Number one, do you want to go the rest of your life not having a Bangladesh bakery cake or whatever it might be? You don't want to restrict yourself from that. And then you're right, it flips around where you're back in control now. I think that's so
Yes.
powerful. What you do for people right there is, hey, you're in control now. You can
Yeah.
decide. You're an adult. You get to decide, right? Where it's not out of
Yeah.
your hand.
Right,
Uh,
right. And when we have that sense of control, like we don't feel so powerless. And that is often the way that trauma plays a role in this as well is with narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse in particular. There's four core wounds. So there's shame, abandonment, self-doubt, and then helplessness. And anytime we feel helpless or powerless, it's often how we feel in diets, number one, but it triggers this like rebellious side, and it triggers so much from how we grew up, from how we spent years or maybe decades being married to somebody or just in a bad dysfunctional relationship. Sometimes it's how work environments can be, but that is one of the core triggers that gets activated now. And so a lot of times it's interesting, right? When I talk about like relationship trauma or divorce with weight loss and emotional eating, a lot of times people see these as two separate things, and they're two sides of the same coin. We experience the same wounds, the same trauma in slightly different ways, but it's like I can have a toxic relationship with food just like I can have a toxic relationship with a person. And that's how we want to start to understand it, because when you start to solve one pattern, when you start to break one cycle, it becomes easier to break the next.
So kind of along those same lines, do you have a story of someone who kind of was in this cycle of emotional eating and they're just feeling stuck to feeling where they're just truly free around food?
Yes. So I had a client, and she wanted to lose 20 pounds after she had her baby. She was going through a surgery in our 6 months that we were working together. And she was emotionally eating or binge eating almost every single night. So definitely on the weeknights. It wasn't as much on weekends. She felt like she could control herself, but on weeknights, she felt like she needed to eat more to please her husband, to show that she appreciated him cooking dinner. So it was like, I need to go back for seconds. I need to eat everything on my plate. She also felt very overwhelmed. She had a hard time asking for help. She had a young child. I think her daughter at the time was around 1.5. And so she just had, she really wrestled with, how do I manage and wear all these roles of working full time, trying to be a good wife, trying to be a good mom, wanting to find some me time in a way that benefits me. And at the time when we first started, a lot of that was food, or it was wine, or it was these other ways that was coming out as like, this is my me time. This is how I take care of myself. I deserve it. I worked really hard this week. And so working with her, it wasn't just about the food. It was really understanding her emotional capacity, being able to ask for help, being able to build in habits and look at where they fit into her life and at different times. And sometimes just take somebody on the outside to get creative of like, have you tried this? Have you tried studying and doing your schoolwork while you're riding the bicycle in the morning and doing a little warm up on the bike? Like, how can we kind of combine some activities where you can do two things at once? Not from a hustly standpoint, but from a way where you can feel really productive and using your time well. So she lost 20 pounds in about 4 months while having this surgery, while raising a child, while working full time, having a spouse, and she stopped binge eating and she stopped emotionally eating. And so her overeating went from, an extra plate of food at night plus dessert to maybe it was an extra bite or two. Her overeats were so small in comparison, where she was able to notice, like, I think I probably had an extra couple bites that I didn't necessarily need, but it was such a huge difference in terms of where she started.
Wow. Yeah. If you can cultivate that awareness, man, that's a huge part of it right there. So when
Yeah.
you are working with clients, is there a mistake you see or resistance even when it comes to body or food or health? And how do you help people break through that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, if we go back to those kind of core four wounds, self-doubt is really big. And so helping somebody to stop fighting for their limitations and to start fighting for what's possible and what they're capable of, to choose on purpose to believe good things about themselves. I think that is probably a really common one that we don't often recognize or know how to deal with, but we often have somebody else's voice in our head that comes from childhood, a bad relationship, and it becomes our own. And so we're just used to all of these negative thoughts, negative beliefs. We have a lot of evidence, and our brain is good at finding evidence as to how we've failed before, so don't get your hopes up. And really, it's this fear of disappointment. And it's fascinating to see how it's like disappointment in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't feel like that big or that bad of an emotion, right? And yet we are terrified of it. We are so afraid of being disappointed. And you just look for in your life where you're afraid of getting your hopes up, where you're afraid it's going to be too good to be true, where you're afraid that things aren't going to last or they couldn't be this good all the time. And we end up creating these negative self-fulfilling prophecies, and sometimes even just have a hard time believing good things about ourselves, like choosing to believe something nice and positive about yourself. And that is one of the biggest steps, is to stop arguing for your limitations and start fighting and arguing for how you can do something, and you're committed to figuring it out no matter how long it takes. This is where you're at. And I think that was such a turning point for me, was deciding like, I'm going to figure out my emotional eating. I don't care how many things I try that don't work. I don't care how long it takes me to do it. I will figure this out.
Man, I love it. Don't give yourself an out. Until we fix this thing, we're going to keep at it. Yeah, I love it. So we have a lot of high achieving professional women and business owners on this, particularly women. Is there a health system that you work with, almost like guardrails? Like, hey, I need this in my life, but I'm just going to ignore this. So you mentioned some of them with no foods or off limits or anything like that. Is there something that you see that a lot of them are ignoring?
Yeah. So one of the things that plays into like emotional eating is, am I physically hungry? And I think so often we are emotionally hungry. We are emotionally starved. We are starved for our own praise, our own love, our own affection. And we keep seeking that outside of ourselves. But I think just this parameter of like, am I hungry physically? Have I had enough? I think that right there is such a key point of really being able to determine like how much food your body needs on a daily basis, because our bodies are going to need different amounts at different times. We have different sleep cycles, different hormones. Especially for a woman's body that cycles every 28 to 35 days. There's so much that really impacts our body's ability and like how much food it truly needs from an energy standpoint. And so being able to listen to it and trust it, that's a huge one. And I think this also builds self-trust, which typically gets eroded from diets. It gets eroded from these relationships. And it's learning to trust yourself, to trust your body. And that's how we learn to love our bodies now and all the way down the scale.
Man, that's such a turning point right there. You can't change a body you hate, right? You can't just keep hating yourself into a smaller size, right? You gotta start with love, and I think you're gonna see much better results. If you could talk to some of these busy women right now who are maybe they're struggling with emotional eating or body frustration, what's some little things they could do this week to kind of break those patterns?
Yeah, so a couple of questions that I tell clients or I suggest to them is to start asking, number one, am I hungry? So before you put anything in your mouth, before you eat at any point, your answer might sometimes be yes, right? Like, yes, I am hungry. That is good. This builds awareness for like, what are my physical hunger cues? How do I know that it's time to eat? And so often when we are used to numbing out and stuffing down emotions, we stuff down cues in our body. Sometimes we don't know how what our physical hunger cues are, because we're so used to just stuffing everything down. And the more we can allow the emotions, the more we also start to notice these hunger cues and physical sensations. So it kind of has a twofold kind of aspect here. The other thing to look at is, am I tired? So often we are freaking tired. We need to go to bed instead of trying to get more done on your to-do list, instead of trying to just push harder. And sometimes the other thing is like, we want our me time. We want that relaxation time. And so it's like, oh, I don't want to go to bed. I want to watch another episode. I want to, and I noticed I do this too sometimes. Like even the past couple of days, there was a night I remember where I could tell it was like a little rebellious, like a little kid in me, where I know I'm tired, but I don't want to go to sleep yet. And so it's really understanding like, okay, what do I need in this moment? And so often it's not food, it's actually I need to go to sleep. And that's the best way that I can love myself and love my body. And then I love the phrase and asking yourself, can I just eat 2 more bites and then I put it away? Can I just go for a 5-minute walk? Can I just breathe for 2 minutes before going to the pantry? Or before I respond to my child who's having a meltdown, or my teenager who's giving me attitude, or, whatever it is, this like willingness to negotiate with yourself. And that phrase of, can I just, like, we make it small, simple, doable, and it puts us to making progress. And that's what we're all about, right? Progress, not perfection. Easier said than done. But when we truly validate that progress for ourselves and we truly believe that this is good enough, that makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, I think that's perfect. If nothing else, you get that pattern interrupt where you just take a second.
Yes.
Realize what you're about. Not that eating on autopilot. Some of us do. I'm guilty myself, where you just kind of, oh no, I just ate a bag of chips. Didn't even realize what I was watching something on TV or something like that. So yeah, if you can just do that little pattern interrupt, and I love that. Because then, you know what? We can all do that, right? Every one of us can start that this week. So that's great. All right. So there's no telling what the answer to this one is, but what's next for you and your business?
It's hard to say sometimes, but there's a lot. So I'm going to be writing a book called Hungry for Love. My goal is to get a TEDx speaking talk booked next in 2026. And then I'll be hosting my first retreat this year, as well as doing some more paid speaking, like public speaking. And really, it's kind of like same, slightly different, kind of bringing the speaking of the podcast just to some bigger stages, and then expanding the group program that I offer. So yeah, actually a lot of amazing stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you're awesome at what you do. More people need to know about you. So I'm glad you're getting out there and spreading the word, because people need the stuff, right? We're not taught this stuff in school. So a lot of people struggling out there that you could help. So I'm glad you're out there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we're going to go to the rapid fire part right here. This is very stressful for a lot of people. So just lock in.
Let's do it.
Okay. I think people are curious about how kind of trainers and coaches do some of this stuff. So what's your go-to snack when you're short on time?
Beef jerky.
Beef jerky. There you go. I like that answer. So one word your clients use to describe your coaching style.
Charismatic.
I like that. Your hair is very charismatic as well,
yeah.
by the way. All right, one word you would describe yourself with.
Vibrant.
Oh, I like that one too. So what's the book you think every business owner should read?
This is so hard because I'm like, there are so many. So actually, one of the books is called The Origins of You. It's actually more of a personal development, self-development type of book. But I think the better we can understand ourselves and understand these patterns, coping mechanisms, things like that we will see them show up in business. And the more that we can see that, the more that we can get away from just like, this is how you balance your books. It's like, okay, but what's actually stopping you from showing up and getting visible, or risking that feeling disappointed, risking feeling rejected? That I think actually can play such a pivotal role from a business perspective, not just like a personal growth stance.
Oh, that's cool. What was the name of that one again?
It's called The Origins of You.
Oh, I hadn't heard of that. I got to check that one out. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's the best piece of advice you've ever heard?
Learn to enjoy the journey and the pursuit of your goals. Like, enjoy pursuing them, not just waiting to the end result to feel happy or successful or proud, but actually enjoying the process of creating. So that has been huge for me. And then worst piece of advice I've ever gotten was, if you don't stick to your diet 2 days out of the week, you're not going to lose weight this week. That is where I really learned to be like, oh, well, I screwed up and it's Wednesday, so I guess I'll start over next Monday, because maybe Monday I can be perfect. And, I think some people have good intentions. It's like, I want to believe there are good intentions behind that, and yet such terrible advice. Yeah.
I think those are the people with good intentions and good genetics. That's the ones that get away with it.
Yeah, right.
But that's terrible advice. If you're listening out there, quit telling people that. I don't know. I think nothing would surprise us at this point, but if what's one thing people would be surprised about you?
Well, I mean, given the stories I've shared, maybe not as surprised, now, but I grew up all over the world. So moving to Alabama about 3 years ago was move number 18 in 23 years. And that was states or countries. So it wasn't even like moving across town or moving homes. These were big moves that I've been doing since I was 15. So, but it's given me such perspective. I think I have to remember to have compassion for people who grow up in a certain area, who stay in a certain region, who might have a lot of emotional ties to cars, houses, things like that, just because I've had to learn to keep more of my emotions and memories and things like in my head, just not attached to anything in particular. But yeah, it definitely helps to shape me and how I coach.
Yeah, that'll do it. Everyone should travel. Everyone gets the opportunity to travel and see things and see different people. It will help you understand a lot of people for sure.
Yes.
So you covered one a little bit. What's one myth about weight loss that drives you crazy?
Yes, it's just calories in, calories out.
That's it.
That, and I wrote off I was thinking, as I was thinking about this question too, just like, no, the fuck it's not. Like, I get so angry with people when, they want to claim that that's what it is. And it's interesting, right? Because we have data from like as early as 1902. I think there was a study done that really debunked this theory. And then Ansel Keys has the Great Starvation Experiment from the late 40s, where it's like, it's been 75 years since we've known and had some data and information around how it's not calories in, calories out, how there is psychological harm and impact that comes from dieting and extreme restriction. There is diet trauma, and yet we are not talking about it as widely as we still keep talking about this same myth. So yeah, that is one that I will be on my deathbed still talking about.
Fun fact, I used to write for the Huntsville newspaper when we actually had one, Huntsville Times, and I wrote an article about that It's not true, and people came for me. I got in big trouble by the dietitians and stuff like that. So I got in trouble because people don't, they still believe just straight up calories in, calories out. So I got in a little trouble, which I'll take it. I'll take it. So
Yeah.
anyway, back to you. Let's talk about this. How can people find you, work with you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so my website is bodyyoucrave.com. So you can visit me over there. I am also on Instagram, or the podcast is actually a really great way to get to know me, my story, but also more of my approach, my philosophy, the methodology behind it. And that's called Hungry for Love. So you can find that on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Those are the two primary platforms. And those are the best places. Right now, I offer small group coaching and one-on-one private coaching. So depending on the level of kind of what kind of support you're looking for, we'll just have a conversation and then just decide what the best fit looks like for you.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link all that in show notes. You can just go click over there, go right to those sites and check it out, whatever you're looking for right there. Before we go, this is what this podcast is all about. What is a specific way our podcast community can help you this month?
Yeah, listening and then sharing my podcast is great. Like the more people that we have starting to challenge their view, their concept, what they think they know about food and relationships and weight loss, and really having this better understanding. Because I guarantee if you don't have a toxic person in your life, if you don't have someone who's emotionally abusive, I guarantee you are 1 degree away from it. You have somebody else in your direct sphere of influence that you interact with who has somebody who is struggling deeply with their emotions, with the weight loss, with divorce, with a toxic person. Like it is so prevalent. And that's what this podcast is there to do, is to help bring more awareness, peace, comfort, and then real strategies and practical tools to help people to navigate these challenges of life.
And she gave you guys a sampler platter of some of the things she does right there, some of her coaching tips. Like you said, they're actionable, they're easy. You could do them this week, in fact. And she goes deeper on a lot of subjects as well. If you're interested in those, go check out the podcast, the website. Hey, keep doing what you're doing, Jillian. People need you out there, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. This was so great. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thanks for coming on. If you're listening right now, please share this episode. Someone needs to meet Jillian, and she can help for sure. There's so many people out there, like I said, that are going through these things, and they don't have to suffer unnecessarily. Get linked up with Jillian. Keep sharing this and keep sharing the small business scene here in the Huntsville, Alabama area. We'll see you next week on the Huntsville Hustle Podcast.